my name is Makayla, and today I want to delve into reading and how to make it fun. I've grown up kind of just always loving books. During high school, there was a period of time where I didn't get to read as much simply because of homework, and I kind of got out of it for a while. But then I started again, and it really made me realize how much I do love reading, and I want everyone else to kind of experience that too. So basically I've kind of formed 10 ways or tips or whatever to enjoy reading. So hopefully these work for you. Maybe if you used to love reading and you haven't done it as much lately, or if you've just never really gotten into it and you kind of want to start. So the first bit of advice I'd have, and this might be a little bit obvious, is to just try new things. If it's not working for you, whatever styles of books that you're reading, if you're not liking it, then maybe you should just start trying new things. And there's several ways you can do this. For one, new styles of books. So if you don't like the typical novel, maybe try reading graphic novels or even fan fiction. I spend so much time reading fan fiction, it's kind of ridiculous. But if you can find good stories, they're totally worth it. Also try new genres, mystery, thriller, romance. There's so many different ones out there that you might not have tried yet that you might find you like. Also try different lengths, because a lot of people try reading long books and it just gets old for them. So maybe try reading like 50,000 word stories, novellas. Those might be more attractive to you. Also, maybe you might want to start a series because then it lasts longer. Maybe that will interest you more. And also try reading new material depending on like when it was published, because it's a very different experience reading Jane Austen as opposed to James Patterson. So maybe test around like the different waters of books and see which one appeals to you the most in terms of like linguistics that they use because of the time it was written. A huge one is don't be discouraged if you don't like a book. It's completely fine to put it down and never pick it up again. Sometimes there is like, well, not a stigma, but just personal guilt around it, I think, if you put down a book that you've started and then it's kind of like, oh, did I waste my time beginning that book since I haven't finished it? I don't think it is at all. Just read as much as you feel like reading and then stop reading once you're done. And this might be hypocritical of me to advise, because I really like to finish a book that I'm reading even if I don't like it, but it is okay to put it down if you're not liking it. Okay, this one's probably my favorite. Keep a Goodreads account. I have a Goodreads account. It's so much fun because you can track the books you've read. It's basically a website, by the way. And you can leave reviews for books you've read, and it's like organized, to be honest. It's also important that you read for fun and not when you're stressed, because if you're thinking about homework or anything else you have to be doing, you're not going to be able to enjoy that book, and then you're going to associate those negative feelings with reading. Likewise, reading for an assignment at school is not the same as reading for fun. So if you've read a lot of books for school and you've found that you hate it and it's miserable and it's dumb, that's completely fine, because like it often is. It's really boring when you don't get to choose your own books. But don't take that to mean that you don't like reading, because it's a totally different experience when you get to pick out your own books as opposed to being forced to read 50 pages that night because your teacher wants you to read the specific book that you have no interest in whatsoever. Alright, and then also get comfortable when you read. This one's kind of obvious again, but you know, sit in a comfortable spot, maybe by a fireplace, have some coffee or tea with you, and it just makes it 10 times more snuggly to read when you're comfortable than like, I don't know, sitting at the dining room table. That's just not fun. Another way to start liking reading is by joining a book club. And maybe your school or community offers one. If they don't, you could even start your own book club with your friends or even family members. But if you can join a book club, it's really worth it. I've joined a feminist book club at my college, and right now we're reading Feminism Without Borders. I don't typically pick up nonfiction on my own, but this book club's giving me more of an interest in nonfiction, which I'm really excited about. So joining a book club could help you find new material that you haven't read before that you end up enjoying. Another tip is don't read when you're exhausted. So if you're reading before bed and you find that you're just very tired as you're doing it, not only will it make you less interested in reading at the moment, but the next day when you go to pick up the book again, you might recall less of it, which makes the plot less intriguing. I don't think that it helps like getting you mesmerized into a book. So if you can, just try to read when you're more awake. I think that it'll just help you appreciate and absorb the material more. Research books. So what I mean by this is just go online and search for books that you think you might like, related to other books you've read that you liked. You can even search for specifics. So like if you want to read about a bisexual character, or maybe you want to read about someone who's from Sweden because you grew up in Sweden. Maybe you've suffered from a loss in your family recently and you want to commiserate with a fictional character over that. It's just really there's so many resources online that will help you find those very specific books that you're kind of craving. So definitely go online and search. Get inspired. Follow people on Goodreads if you set up a Goodreads account. You can follow people on Instagram. There's a ton of book bloggers out there. You could also find a ton of inspiration on TikTok for books and genres, ideas. There's just so much out there that people can promote and really help inspire. They're just great resources to take advantage of. Okay, lastly, I have some book recommendations that I would like to share. So if these tips don't help, or if you also just want to try one of these that I'm about to suggest, these are some random books I've enjoyed across various genres and styles. Shoot. I even have some of them right here to like show for props, examples. Anyway, starting with Lord of the Rings. This is a classic series I'm sure you've heard of, but the reason I'm suggesting it is because if you've had a hard time getting into reading and you've seen the movies for this, it makes them a lot more fun to read. It is very dense, and I honestly wouldn't recommend it like if you haven't read the movies. I think the movies make it a lot more fun to read, to be honest. And then the poor book that I just dropped. So this one was made into the TV show Game of Thrones. Unlike Lord of the Rings, I would recommend reading this before you watch the show because there's so much more in here, and the vocabulary and sentence structure is just so rich. George R.R. Martin writes fantastically. It's one of my favorite books. It's probably my favorite book series, but I'd highly recommend this. Stephen King's Misery is a really good book. It's a thriller and it just keeps you on your toes the entire time. Okay, this book I'm in the process of reading, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's like a psychological fiction, and it's very like academic, and you just feel like you're kind of learning things as you read it, but also it's just filled with suspense, and I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm really enjoying it. Another one is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. This was introduced to me through my feminism book club that I'm involved in. And it's very informative, so if you kind of are wanting to learn about feminist ideals, I'd really recommend that. I Am Number 4, that's a really amazing book series. It's young adult sci-fi, and there's like a lot of superpowers involved in it, so if you're into that sort of thing, it's a wonderful series to read. And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and this is a good one because it's very short. So if you don't have a lot of time in your day and you're looking for a quick read, this is going to be the one for you. It's just a really good mystery. Looking for Alaska by John Green. This is a sad book, young adult, that I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and again, this one's kind of dense, like Lord of the Rings, but it's really worth it. This is the one that got me reading classics. I thought it was just very good. I recommended it to my mom, and then she read it. She loved it too, so yeah. Okay, this one, if you're looking for fan fiction, I read a Star Wars fan fiction that was incredible. It's called Lineage by Ruth Balding, and it's on fanfiction.net. So if you are into that sort of thing, this is a very narrow topic, but if you're into that, I'd really recommend it. Mastermind by Maria Konnikova, and it's basically how to think like Sherlock. And it's a nonfiction, but I thought it was just something that really changed my perspective about how I think from day to day and like my perspective of the world. So if you want to read nonfiction, this is a great one. And then finally, by Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind. And this is a fantasy series. It's adult fantasy, and there's a third book that's supposed to be coming out soon. I'll have to Google that to see if it's coming out anytime soon because I'm really looking forward to it. Alright, I hope this inspires you to get into reading and maybe make a book list for 2021, and thank you so much for watching.